Just wanted to quickly introduce Shubh Vilas Prabhu. He is a lifestyle coach, storyteller, and author. He studied patent law after completing his engineering degree, but finally chose the path of a spiritual seeker. He's just completed his PhD in leadership from Valmiki Ramayana, and his thesis is considered path-breaking in the field of leadership studies from ancient texts. In his 11 years of monkhood associated with Sri Radha Gopinath Temple, ISKCON Chowpatty, he has served in various leadership roles in congregational development as well as management. He heads ISKCON Goa, where the congregation has been on a steady growth curve under his leadership. Now, I heard yesterday, they have about 2,500 devotees. He also heads Tulsi Books, a publishing house for spiritual books, pioneer of the Gita Champions League, now an international competition to promote Gita learning in schools. He has delivered more than 6,000 talks, inspiring more than 600,000 people across 20 countries in the last 10 years, and the list goes on and on. Shubh Vilas Prabhu, welcome to Krsna House in Gainesville. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hare Krishna. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakatamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadotam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Gatamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namoste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we read the verse and the purport for all the verses. Just a translation.
Just a translation and then focus on the particular verse.
36. Okay. All right. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 11, entitled Lord Krishna's Entrance into Dwarka. Text number 28. Pravitastu gruham pitro pariswa.
Just read the translation.
Oh, okay. Got it.
26, we can read the Sanskrit.
Okay. After entering the house of his father, he was embraced by the mothers present, and the Lord offered his obeisances unto them by placing his head at their feet. The mothers were headed by Devaki, his real mother. The mothers, after embracing their son, sat him on their laps. Due to pure affection, milk sprang from their breast, They were overwhelmed with delight, and the tears from their eyes wetted the Lord. Does everyone read a little bit? Yeah. Anyone like to read the next?
Thereafter the Lord entered his palaces, which were perfect to the fullest extent. His wives lived in them, and they numbered over 16,000.
The queens of Lord Sri Krishna rejoiced within their minds to see their husband home after a long period abroad. The queens got up at once from their seats in meditations. As was socially customary, they covered their faces shyly, and looked about coyly.
The insuperable ecstasy was so strong that the queens, who were shy, first embraced the Lord in the innermost recesses of their hearts. Then they embraced him visually, and then they sent their sons to embrace him, which is equal to personal embracing. But O chief amongst the Bhrigus, though they tried to restrain their feelings, they inadvertently shed tears.
Although Lord Sri Krishna was constantly by their sides, as well as exclusively alone, his feet appeared to them to be newer and newer. The goddess of fortune, although by nature always restless and moving, could not quiet the Lord's feet. So what woman can be detached from those feet, having once taken shelter of them?
The Lord was pacified after killing those kings who were burdensome to the earth. They were puffed up with their military strength, their horses, elephants, chariots, infantry, etc. He himself was not a party in the fight. He simply created hostility between the powerful administrators, and they fought amongst themselves. He was like the wind, which causes friction between bamboos and so sparks of fire.
That Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, appeared on this planet by his internal potency and enjoyed himself amongst competent women as if he were engaging in mundane affairs.
Although the queen's beautiful smiles and furtive glances were all spotless and exciting, and although they could conquer Cupid himself by making him give up his bow in frustration, and although even the tolerant Shiva could fall victim to them, still, despite all their magical feats and attractions, they could not agitate the senses of the Lord.
The common materialistic conditioned souls speculate that the Lord is one of them. Out of their ignorance, they think that the Lord is affected by matter, although he is unattached.
The last verse.
39.
Okay.
This is the divinity of the personality of Godhead. He's not affected by the qualities of material nature, even though he's in contact with them. Similarly, the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord do not become influenced by the material qualities.
The simple and delicate women truly thought that Lord Sri Krishna, their beloved husband, followed them and was dominated by them. They were unaware of the extent of the glories of their husband, as the atheists are unaware of him as the supreme controller.
Hare Krishna. We'll focus on verse number 36. Udama bhava pishunamala valguhasa Uddama bhava pisunamala valguhasa Vriddavaloka madano yasham Vriddavaloka madano piyasam Sammuhya chapam ajahata pramodamasto सम्मोहि चाप अजहात प्रमदोत्तमहास्त यस्येन्द्रियं विमतितुं कुहकैर्न शेको यस्येन्द्रियं विमतितुं कुहकैर्न शेको उद्दाम भाव पिशुनामलवल्गुहास वृद्धावलोकनिहत मदनोऽपि यासाम् सम्मूय चापम् अजहात प्रमदोत्तमस्त यस्येन्द्रियं विमतितुं कुहकैर्न शेको Udama, very grave. Bhava, expression. Pishuna, exciting. Amala, spotless. Valguhasa, beautiful smiling. Vriddha, corner of the eye. Avaloka, looking. Nihata, conquered. Madana, Cupid. Or Amadana, the greatly tolerant Shiva. Api, also. Yasham, whose. Samhuya, being overpowered by. Chapam, bows. Ajahat, gave up. Pramada, woman, who maddens. Uttamaha, of high grade. Ta, all. Yasya, whose. Indriyam, senses. Vimatitum, to perturb. Kuhakai, the magical feats. Na, never. Sheku, was able. Translation. Although the queen's beautiful smiles and furtive glances were all spotless and exciting, and although they could conquer Cupid himself by making him give up his bow in frustration, and although even the tolerant Shiva could fall victim to them, still, despite all their magical feats and the path of salvation or the path of going back to Godhead always forbids the association of women and the sensitive persons really anxious to know about the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. And to answer such questions, the sages at Naimisharanya have discussed the transcendental character of the Lord in this and in the following verses. It is clear herein that the feminine attractive features which can conquer Cupid, and even the supermost tolerant Lord Shiva could not conquer the senses of the Lord. Cupid's business is to invoke mundane lust. The whole universe is moving, being agitated by Cupid's arrows. The activities of the world are being carried on by the central attraction of male and female. The male is searching after a mate to his liking, and the female looking after a suitable male. That is the way of material stimulus. And as soon as a male is combined with a female, the material bondage of the living being is at once tightly interlocked by sex relation. And as a result of this, both the male's and female's attraction for sweet home, motherland, bodily offspring, society, and friendship, and the accumulation of wealth becomes the illusory field of activities, and thus a false but indefeatable attraction for the temporary material existence, which is full of miseries, is manifest. Those who are therefore on the path of salvation, for going back home, back to Godhead, are specially advised by all scriptural instructions to become free from such paraphernalia of material attraction. And that is possible only by association of the devotees of the Lord, who are called as Mahatmas. Cupid throws his arrow upon the living being to make them mad after the opposite sex, whether the party is actually beautiful or not. Cupid's provocations are going on even among beastly societies who are all ugly looking in the estimation of the civilized nations. Thus, Cupid's influence is exerted even among the ugliest forms, and what to speak of the most perfect beauties. Lord Shiva, who is considered to be the most tolerant, was also struck by Cupid's arrow because he also became mad after the Mohini incarnation of the Lord and acknowledged himself to be defeated. Cupid, however, was himself captivated by the grave and exciting dealings of the goddesses of fortune, and he voluntarily gave up his bow and arrow in the spirit of frustration. Such was the beauty and attraction of the queens of Lord Krishna. Yet they could not disturb the transcendental senses of the Lord. This is because the Lord is all perfect, Atma Rama, or self-sufficient. He does not require anyone's extraneous help for his personal satisfaction. Therefore, the queens could not satisfy the Lord by their feminine attractiveness, but they satisfied him by their sincere affection and service. Only by unalloyed transcendental loving service could they satisfy the Lord, and the Lord was pleased to treat them as wives in reciprocation. Thus, being satisfied by their unalloyed service only, the Lord reciprocated the service just like a devout husband. Otherwise, he had no business becoming the husband of so many wives. He is the husband of everyone, but to one who accepts him as such, he reciprocates. This unalloyed affection for the Lord is never to be compared to mundane lust. It is purely transcendental, and the grave dealings which the queens displayed in natural feminine ways were also transcendental because the feelings were expressed out of transcendental ecstasy. It is already explained in the previous verse that the Lord appeared like a mundane husband, but factually his relationship with his wives was transcendental, pure, and unconditioned by the modes of material nature. Hare Krishna. Very happy and grateful to be here amidst all of y'all at Krishna House. Today we are talking on this very exalted subject matter of Krishna's family and Krishna's mindset as a family person. It's very interesting to note in these verses and in the purport that we just read that Srila Prabhupada is taking a philosophical approach towards such sweet pastimes. One of the names of Krishna, he is known as Anubhav Pradhan. Anubhav Pradhan means he has come to give us an anubhav or experience of the spiritual world. Just like when people decide to watch a movie, which is a 2 hours or 3 hours movie, they first watch a 3-minute trailer. The 2 or 3 minute trailer appeals to them, then they invest their time, energy, money watching a 3-hour movie, isn't it? Similarly, Krishna comes to this material world to give us a small trailer of what to expect in the spiritual world. If you love the trailer, then pay the price. And then you'll get the full movie, So all the pastimes of Krishna in the material world are simply a trailer of what to expect in the spiritual world. And therefore, as we know that whatever is there in the material world, you get the exact reflection of that in the spiritual world, isn't it? In the material world, we have relationships. But every relationship in the material world frustrates you. It frustrates you to the limit, isn't it? I mean, it all begins with perfect love stories, but it ends with tragedy and trauma, isn't it? The nature of mundane relationships is designed to frustrate us, is designed to make us lose faith in relationships. But as I said, whatever you see in the material world is a inverted reflection of what is there in the spiritual world. And therefore, in the spiritual world, you find perfect relationships. You find perfect people. You find perfect connections. Why do people have hope in relationships even after being frustrated so much? Because intuitively, we all know perfection is possible. Intuitively, we all know perfect relationships are possible. But unfortunately, that's not our experience in the material world. Because we're looking for the perfect relationships in the wrong place. We're looking for the right thing, but in the wrong place. So when we study Krishna's family, when we study Krishna's relationships, when we study Krishna's dealings with his devotees, you start beginning to get hope. And maybe someday I will also experience this. And it's not a false hope. It's not like the movies, isn't it? The movies talk about perfect love. The movies talk about happily ever after. But usually that's where the problems begin. The Srimad Bhagavatam, if you study the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is a very interesting style of presenting. The story of Krishna begins with Kamsa driving Devaki and Vasudeva's chariot. They just got married. It doesn't talk about Devaki and Vasudeva's love affair, how they ran around in gardens and they had a beautiful courtship. It doesn't talk about all that. It directly goes to the reality. What happens after marriage? Immediately after the marriage, Akashvani happens. That big voice declaring that Kamsa, you are in big trouble. And the interesting thing is, why does Bhagavatam directly take you there to the realities of life? Because the Bhagavatam prepares you for what to expect in the material world. And the Bhagavatam prepares you for how to deal with what happens in the material world. The moment that Akashvani happens, the moment that declaration happens, immediately Kamsa takes out his sword and he's going to slash off Devaki's head. Now imagine if someone just gets married and he's hoping to spend the rest of his life with his wife, and the moment he gets married, his wife's head rolls off. How complicated and difficult it is. And the interesting thing is that when Vasudeva experiences that, he smiles. And that, I find, is the most interesting thing that the Bhagavatam brings up. How to deal with a calamity with a smile on your face. Now, don't think just Krishna is like that. Everyone connected to Krishna is like that. They have the ability to deal with calamities in the most sophisticated, graceful, and dignified manner. Vasudev, he smiled and spoke to Kamsa. And interestingly, Vasudev spoke to Kamsa the exact same philosophy that Krishna spoke to Arjun on the battlefield, the Bhagavad Gita. Vasudev speaks about how we are not the body, we are the spirit soul. Vasudev speaks about being focused on higher things in life and not really being so disturbed by these things. The amazing thing is that Vasudeva spoke to Kamsa Bhagavad Gita on a chariot. And Vasudeva speaks to Kamsa Bhagavad Gita during the most critical time of his life. Just like Krishna speaks the same Gita to Arjun. And the most amazing thing is that the father and son speak the same philosophy, so much alignment in the family. So if you're wondering where Krishna learned his Bhagavad Gita from, his father. And the most amazing thing is that, Kamsa as a student was a bad student. He heard philosophy, he heard the Gita, and then when Krishna spoke the Gita to Arjun, he had the capacity to digest it, isn't it? So the message of the Gita is same for everybody, but our capacity to digest and grasp the message is different. So the alignment in the family of Krishna is just amazing. Everyone connected to Krishna has a very unique relationship with Krishna, has a very unique bond with Krishna. And the most amazing thing is that Krishna reciprocates with everyone in a unique way. See, we all have a relationship with people around us. But because we are not Rasaraj, Rasaraj means the king of mellows. Krishna is Rasaraj. Because he's the king of mellows, with everyone, he has a different flavor. With every person that he connects with, he has a different flavor. Unfortunately, we do not have much flavors within us. So we act the same with everybody. Boring, And that's why nobody feels connected with us, because we do not have the ability to have variety in our dealings. Krishna is so beautiful. Krishna is so amazing that with every one of the people that is connected to him, he has a very unique and a very special way of bonding with them. I'm going to give you some examples of how Krishna bonds with his people. And the way he bonds, the way he connects is so heartfelt. And those people who connect with him also, they are so strongly connected, they can't live without him. We'll start with a very, very beautiful story from Vrindavan. The difference in the flavors of Vrindavan and Mathura and Dwarka here is that in Vrindavan, they're very open about their emotions. In Dwarka, they kind of hide their emotions. In Vrindavan, they tell Krishna, we miss you. And in Dwarka, they feel that they miss Krishna, but they don't tell him. Dwarka is a little formal, and Vrindavan is a little informal. Dwarka is a little sophisticated. Vrindavan is a little rustic. Dwarka is hidden love. Vrindavan is open love. Dwarka is a place where people are conscious of what people think. Vrindavan, people don't care for what people think. They just care only for one thing, what Krishna thinks about them. That's all. I'll begin with a very sweet story of Vrindavan. One of Krishna's friends, his name is Subala. He was madly attracted towards Krishna. And Subala, this little boy, he always missed Krishna after the evening time, because all day they would be together, they would be playing and be grazing the cows, and then they would all go to their own homes. And this boy, he missed Krishna so much. All evening, all night, he would wait for the sun to rise so that he could run back and meet his friend. One day, Subala started crying. He just didn't stop crying. He was so disturbed that he was missing Krishna too much. His mother took him to Nanda Bhavan to meet Mother Yashoda to figure out how to deal with this problem. So Mother Yashoda, when she saw Subal crying, she felt very bad for him. So she decided to solve the problem in a very unique way. She called Chitra Saki, Chitrasakhi is one of the gopis of Vrindavan who is an expert painter. And she called Chitrasakhi and told her, come and make a painting of Krishna. I mean, those are not days of Instagram where you could, scroll the Instagram page of Krishna and, look at him. So Chitrasakhi came and she agreed to paint Krishna. But she told him he has to sit. And Krishna can't sit anywhere. He just can't sit in one place. He just runs around all over the place. And Chitrasakhi was, she gave him a particular pose to sit in so that she can actually paint him. And every few seconds, Krishna would change his pose. Chitrasakhi was getting so disturbed. She was saying, how can I paint this fellow? He's just changing all the time. And that's when Chitrasakhi realized there's only one way to make Krishna stable. She closed her eyes and remembered Radha. The moment she remembered Radha very intensely, Krishna suddenly became very stable. And Krishna became so stable so she could paint him, nicely, and made a very beautiful painting of Krishna. And she gave it to Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda called Subal and she gave him this painting. And she said, this is your Krishna. And Subal was so thrilled because he couldn't find a difference between the Krishna in this painting and the real Krishna. He went home, and from that day onwards, every night, he slept with that painting, hugging the painting. Look at this. What an expression of love, isn't it? What a way to speak the connection that they have with Krishna. As I said, everyone in Vrindavan and Dwarka, they have their own unique flavor of connection with Krishna. We speak about, the Dwarkavasis. We'll talk about Rukmini. One time, Krishna came back to his bedroom to meet Rukmini. And then he began to look at Rukmini and started praising her so much. Now, Rukmini and Krishna's love affair is one of the most celebrated love affairs in the universe. The original love letter was written by Rukmini. I mean, in mundane times, we find boys writing love letters all the time, I mean, most men, when they write love letters, half the time they don't even mean what they write. But when a woman writes a love letter, she means every word of it. And she really, really puts her heart into that. And imagine Rukmini writing a love letter. She wrote her letter with golden letters. Not in the figurative terms, but actually in the literal terms also. And every word in that letter spoke volumes of her love for Krishna. And how did she fall in love with Krishna? She fell in love with Krishna only by hearing about him. That's all. She never saw him. She never saw his profile. She never saw his Instagram page. She never saw him. She never met him. She never, went to coffee with him. Just hearing about him. And just hearing about his qualities, she just madly fell in love with Krishna and she expressed those feelings. Probably, from Krishna's point of view, this might be his first experience of someone in the realm of cities expressing like that. And Krishna has experienced a lot of village women expressing their love. But cities are different, isn't it? When Krishna saw Rukmini's expression of love, he realized this person is so unique, so beautiful, so amazing. And Krishna wanted to reciprocate with Rukmini. He fell in love with her just by reading her words. Expressions of love are very important. When we express what we feel in our hearts towards the people that we connect with, those expressions are windows in which we can understand a person's heart. So Rukmini and Krishna's connection was very specifically through words. And then much later when they were married, now this is a time when Rukmini was not just married, she had a child, she had many children. And not only she had many children, she had many grandchildren also. At this point in time, Krishna is telling Rukmini, he first begins to appreciate her beauty. I mean, we just read descriptions of Prabhupada talking about the beauty of the spiritual world. Cupid makes people stupid, isn't it? But When Krishna sees Cupid, and rather Cupid sees Krishna, he becomes stupefied. He becomes completely bewildered. Yeah? Therefore, Krishna's one of his names is Madana Mohan, the one who can make Cupid stupid. But Radha, her name is Madana Mohana Mohini. She can stupefy even Krishna. So the levels of beauty that we're talking about is something that we can't even understand. Sometimes when you look at people who are Miss World and Miss Universe and all that, you begin to wonder, does this person actually deserve to be given those titles? Not exactly the most beautiful people, really. But when we look at people in the spiritual world, it is said the people in the heavenly planets, the most, uh, people in the material world, the most beautiful person in the material world, when you compare their beauty with people in the heavenly planets, they're almost like cockroaches. Yeah. That's the kind of beauty in the material world. And then you compare the beauty of the most beautiful person in the heavenly planets with someone in the spiritual world, they're like frogs. Not exactly so beautiful. And then among the spiritual world, the most beautiful person in the spiritual world is Krishna. And if Krishna is being attracted to somebody, you can imagine their beauty. If Krishna is being attracted to someone madly, you can imagine their beauty. And here is Rukmini, who is a grandmother. I mean, there is a time in life where your beauty gets glorified. Beyond a certain time, nobody talks about your beauty. They might talk about your intelligence, they might talk about everything else, but beyond a certain point, nobody talks about your beauty. And here is Krishna talking about Rukmini's beauty when she was a grandmother. And he tells her, Rukmini, you should not have chosen me. You're so beautiful. There were so many men who were so much more qualified than me. And he talks about Shishupal, he talks about, Dantavakra and Jarasandha, and he says, why did he choose me, of all people? And he's really, really with her. And Rukmini, at some point, she really gets so disturbed, she faints. She really faints. Trying to stop it. And then he begins to into that mood. And she presents argument, why I did the right view? Look at this. Here is mundane between husband and wife. I mean, it happens in home and it's tease, but this is Satyabhama. She she has a very different flavor. She probably take out a so he can handle and she knows is how to love every person, every person prefers different